All
You
right.
must
Well,
be.
welcome everybody who's here and who's joined us on this LinkedIn Live. Both Tim and I are new to LinkedIn Live, so you'll have to bear with us as we travel. But Tim, we're going to talk today for about 30 minutes on happiness at work. Um, and of course, it's such an important question because all the surveys suggest that up to 70% of us are unhappy at work. We look forward to weekends. We look forward to the day we retire. It's almost like work is equal to drudgery, and it's not where we want to be in our lives. And I wonder if it's possible to change that in some way so that um, we can be happier at work. It's something we look forward to going to, and so on.
Well, I hear what you're saying as a question about agency. And do we have agency to shift, in a sense, if not to shift the circumstances of our lives, to shift the way we respond and interact with the circumstances in our life?
Yes. I remember some years ago, I had a friend who had two secretaries working for him, and the job shared. It was exactly the same job, but one of them was constantly stressed by the job, blamed the work, blamed the boss, and the
Yeah.
other person was like totally chill, relaxed, happy, came in at 9, sing through the day, left at 5. But the person who was stressed constantly blamed work for her stress, and couldn't accept that there was another way of looking at things. And couldn't. So, what do you think's going on there?
Well, from a very general perspective, I do notice that it seems to be very accepted that we look at what goes on outside of us as the cause of and the cure for. You know, even when we get down to medicine, and you and I have both been practicing in the healthcare field for many years.
Hmm.
The most natural thing is to say, well, what has invaded this body? Is it a virus or a bacteria? Is it something outside?
Hmm.
And if it is, we can give a pill. We can do something to change that. And yet, there's also so many of our ills that are internal, that we, it's about our functioning within, and it's not so much about an outside invader. And I think there's a correlate here in terms of our mind, that we naturally look outwards. Well, if I'm unhappy, or even if I'm scared, what am I afraid of? My
Hmm.
heart is racing. I'm fearful. There must be a reason. Let's look outside and find something. You know,
Hmm.
and
Yes.
there's
So maybe the first step is to realize that it's how our mind naturally reacts to the world outside and assumes that the world is responsible for that reaction.
yeah.
And in a way, of course, there's an association, there's a link, isn't there?
Um, I had a friend a long time ago, and he had a comedic line that he would use. He says, we're learning more and more today about personal responsibility and creating our own lives. But I'll tell you, um, my life works a lot better as soon as I realize that every single thing that happens to me is probably someone else's fault. And he was making a joke about this very thing. Do we blame the world, or do we look inside? And I love your Human Wisdom project, because it really just asks us to stop and look inside.
Yes. And I
What are
think,
the factors that would have the one employee have a peaceful, relaxed day, and the other one to be completely stressed? What is happening inside that creates that?
yes. So, firstly, the mind that's already disturbed, the smallest stressor on top of that makes it react much more. Like it's the glass of water that's already full. One drop makes it spill over. So, if you've got an unhappy relationship at work, or money issues, or, identity issues, or self-esteem issues, or you're carrying the pain from some previous painful past. So your mind's already disturbed to some extent.
Yeah.
Then the smallest trigger makes it explode.
I want to talk about another phenomena that I think I'm experiencing, witnessing in the world. Many of my younger clients come to me, and they're unhappy at work, and they seem to have been. Our culture seems to be telling young people today that they must be passionate about their job. And they come to me and say, I'm not passionate with my work. I'm unhappy. I'm unhappy partly because I'm not passionate, right? That I must need a new job, or I must need a new career. Something must change. And it's fascinating that I was not brought up with the idea that I need to be passionate about my work. I was brought up in an era where it was simply go to work, make money, come home, give it to your children, feed them, send them to school, be a good father. Be a good husband. So today, this whole idea of passion, the question I have is, should we be doing what we're passionate about, or should we be passionate about the things that we do?
Yes.
And passion piece is what we were saying before. It's an inside job, isn't it?
Yes. Again, it's the mind assuming that you're responsible for my happiness, that thing has got to still be responsible for my passion.
So in this way, the concept that I think the title of this was being happy at work, right?
Yes. Yes.
And yet I think a lot of people take this as happy with work. Am I happy with my work? And if I'm not, then I can't be happy at work.
Yes.
I like to bring into like maybe a vision that other people can share with, but like you think of a holy man, think of someone who has made their peace, has come to some level of acceptance and engagement in the world, right? Has accepted something, has made a shift for them. And they could be cleaning pots and pans all day. They could be scrubbing floors. It is just a task. Chop wood, carry water.
Yes.
Because there's something in them that has found purpose or belonging. Yes. And that peace is not something that comes from pots and pans.
That is a huge, empowering idea or a realization that you can be in charge of your own happiness and your own passion.
It comes across a little harsh almost when I say to people, well, isn't your happiness just a choice? That can seem confronting. It can seem simplistic, and it can seem judgmental. I don't mean it to be.
No.
But can we choose? Can we have the intention and bring the intention of happiness with us?
Yes. So let's talk about a few things that we can do positively to be happy. Let me start with a positive attitude. Okay, because in any situation, the mind has a tendency to look at things negatively.
That's important. That's not just you, and that's not just me. That is a way the mind works.
Yes. That's how the mind works. To realize that the default way your mind functions is to look at things and say, the glass is half empty. Rather than, hey, I have a job. I'm in heated surroundings. I'm working, and so on. Like to be grateful for what you have. So the moment we switch our mindset, for example, I worked in a hospital for 30 years. I was a surgeon. And of course, people complain all the time. And I said, Do you realize what a privilege it is for someone to entrust their welfare and their well-being and their health to you, you see? So what I'm thinking is, any situation, it's possible to look at things positively or negatively. And I think that's the key thing. So that's one big reason, a way you could be happier at work. Can you think of another?
Well, without running the risk of going down the rabbit hole a little bit, Manoj, which you know I like to do, I want to put another layer on this thing. So we're saying there's some choices about things. I'll tell you a very quick story. A movie that's a favorite of mine. It wasn't a well-done Hollywood production or anything, but it meant a lot to me. It was made in the 80s. It was a remake of the movie Razor's Edge. And Bill Murray is a seeker trying to find the meaning of life. And he's traveling the world in the 1930s. And he's in India because he's heard there's some great wisdom in India. And he's staying on a houseboat on the Ganges River. And it's the morning, and he wakes up, and the owner of the houseboat is doing the dishes in the river in the back of the boat. And he says, why did you come to India? And he said, well, I'm sort of looking to understand. And he says, this is the reason you came to India. But what is your intention of coming to India? Bill Murray is like, what do you mean? What's your intention of doing the dishes? He says, well, the reason for doing the dishes is to have them clean and to provide, something for my guests. But my intention while I do dishes is to become one with God. And I was like, brilliant insight. So even we can choose to get along with we can work with our, colleagues and whatnot, but we can bring an intention, and that can be so very powerful.
Yes. So if you have a mind that is already at peace, right, then you don't need to be, and it's being nourished from inside, from the spring of its own wisdom.
Yes.
Then you take that peace and happiness with you, wherever you go, to work, to your relationships.
And I think it's important that we recognize that that's not an automatic. We're not just waiting for that to get dumped on us. There's actually things that we can do to ensure that we sort of keep inviting that wisdom to be a part of our life. How much time do we spend going to the gym? How much time do we spend saying, I know I need to do this to take care of myself? What if we spent some of that time to take care of our inner peace, to take care of developing our wisdom?
Yes. Which is, of course, not to say that work environments can't be challenging. Right? Bosses can be challenging, they can be demanding. People work under really tough circumstances. So we're not at all trying to sugarcoat the challenges that we will face at work. And in a 30-year career, I met lots of very difficult people to deal with, and so on. But if you carry this sense of inner peace with you, wherever you are, then it just makes all of that so much easier.
Yeah. It's not a panacea. Let's not pretend that this is going to make everything, glorious suddenly. But what I certainly notice with clients day in and day out is that when you reduce the stress levels by, say, 10%, and you increase the curiosity by 5%, and you reduce, just small changes that we make across our life over time end up with by the end of, 3 months, 6 months, a year, you're a very different person, and our experience is very different.
One of the other reasons that makes us really unhappy, I think, at work is the mind just comparing all the time. So-and-so has been on a better holiday than me and has a better car. But to realize that it's not your fault for doing that. The mind's wired to do that automatically all the time. And if you can become aware of that in your own thinking and realize that that process is actually part of the reason you're unhappy.
Here's something else I think I notice is that most of my clients would say, oh, I know I shouldn't be comparing. And so then they'll start to create a negative self-judgment when they find themselves doing it. But that can actually be a block to change. You know, accepting ourselves, forgiving ourselves and others is the first step in making the changes that we want to make.
Yes.
So, oh, I know I should be meditating more. That doesn't actually help me to meditate more.
No. And I think trying to say, oh, I shouldn't be judgmental, I shouldn't be comparing doesn't work. You have to actually notice your mind is doing that and just think, that's not smart. That's just making me unhappy. For example, you know.
I don't know if you can hear me or not.
I can.
There you go. Okay. Well, it's funny. The work I do with clients, I try to work with identity a bit and drill down into the more authentic sense of self, and then look at all the games that we play, the rackets we play with ourselves, the stories we tell ourselves, and that have maybe been helpful at one time or another to get us through difficulty, but they're not actually helping now. And what we notice is that comparing almost always comes from that non-authentic side. When you tap into that true sense of yourself, there's far less of the need to show your success or to be rich or to have, and there's nothing wrong with having things, right? But the need to do it.
Yes.
To compete with others, to have that comparative, to win that comparative game. That's, I don't think that comes from our deepest.
Yes. You know, the other thing that happens sometimes, Tim, sorry, you just broke up a little bit. Can you hear me now?
I can now, yeah.
Is that we bring all our unconscious emotional needs to work too. And there's a long list. I want to be listened to and understood and loved, and not wrong, by the way. They're all normal human needs.
And we bring them to
They're
work.
operating below the surface, beyond our awareness. So have a need to be listened to, but not the same need to listen. I have a need to be understood, but not the same need to understand. But the one need that particularly affects our workplaces is our need to be important. And you can see in all organizations and places of work how that need plays such a huge role in our sense of well-being and happiness with ourselves and so on. Recognition. The human mind demands to be recognized. And
you froze on me there again. Sorry. I don't mean this to be a sexist comment, because I think things are changing, and I think there's becoming, it's starting to show up on both sides of the gender issue. But men for years have created a huge amount of their identity from their job.
Yes.
I respect that women are better at multitasking, and they're better at seeing themselves in different roles. You know, being a mother, being someone who takes care of others. There's so many other ways that women that I have traditionally identified themselves. But I think both genders tend to create a lot of their identity from their job, and that, when you talk about needing importance. And if that's how we get fed by our work, that becomes our validation or our self-worth. It's a lot riding on that job.
Yes. So, for example, I remember a story where, when I was a surgeon, I used to walk around the hospital at night, So at 3 a.m, I'm at the nurse's desk. There's a little table lamp. It's all quiet. everyone's having tea and toast, so time for a chat. The patients are asleep. And I'd say, hey, how are you guys doing today? And they'd say, oh, one of them I remember said, oh, I'm really stressed, Mr. K. They'd call me Mr. K in those days. And I said, why is that? She said, it's a thankless job. Nobody recognizes my worth. How often do you hear that in workplaces up and down the country?
Well, and in relationships, and in many places, it's that need for validation and acknowledgement that we don't have.
Now, that in itself is not wrong, but to just realize, I said, when you turn it around, I said, why do you need someone else to value what you're doing? Because that someone else is busy thinking about themselves and what's happening in their lives. They have no time to come and say, well done. So does that mean you're going to spend all your time at work feeling dissatisfied? And if you turn that around and said, my God, what an amazing job I'm doing here. To have
and it might not be
looking after people, whatever it might be. I might be a bus driver.
It might not be a fabulous job.
Might be a gardener. Yeah. It doesn't matter, you see. My self-worth comes from me, because my need for self-worth comes from my own lack of feeling connected with myself.
And so everything that you talk about, everything that we're talking about, points us back to, job number one is getting clear with person number one here. And yes. We could have just put that out as a bulletin on LinkedIn. By the way, you need to get connected to yourself. No one would argue with us. That makes sense. It sounds too simplistic, but when you start to look at the fingers of all the places that this affects people,
yes,
I mean, everywhere. And you look at, you've got the statistics of how many people are in unhappy relationships, how many people experience stress in their lives, how much anxiety exists, dissatisfaction abounds. This isn't the panacea, but if people would stop and do this, I will tell you, just like little changes in a person creates a difference in their lifetime experience, it will change a ripple effect in our culture, which is tremendous.
Yes, yes. And it empowers you then to take charge of your own happiness, your own well-being. Yeah. And now, for listeners who are unfamiliar with the Human Wisdom Project and the work we've done with the Human Wisdom app, it might be worth just pausing, Tim, and showing people over a quick 2 or 3 minutes some of the things they can look at in their own spare time. And then we'll come back and wrap up the discussion.
Well, maybe even contextualize it a little bit before we go there, to let people know, because you and I talk about this all the time, but that the Human Wisdom Project is all about what we're talking about in terms of looking within. Yes. And you've created, and I know you're very modest about this, but you've created an amazing application that people can carry around on their phones, right? And as a way of helping to access and to be able to have a reminder and an avenue for this wisdom at their fingertips. So,
and of course, we must also acknowledge that you are a human wisdom coach yourself, and you've gone through the whole program, as are many of the listeners and people who are engaging with us on the chat today. So, but I'm just going to share this, and of course, it's available for everyone to look at in their own time. So the website is called humanwisdom.me. There's a lot of free material that you can look at. We have a number of features here, including a journal, stories, a forum, podcasts. For the world of work, particularly, the podcasts are very relevant. How can we make better decisions, have a positive mindset, solve problems, live with compassion, be happy at work? That was a dialogue I had with someone. Have healthy relationships, and so on. or why do we argue? So these podcasts are really useful, as is our new section called Wisdom Shorts. These are very short 1 or 2 minute videos that deliver a little nugget of wisdom, including this one, for example, on being successful. And I'll leave viewers to see that themselves.
And I have to tell you, I'm so impressed with those shorts, the ones that I've watched. They're beautifully done. There's a great aesthetic. It's a great message, but they embody what you're talking about. And so you watch this for 1 minute or 2 minutes, and it has that effect on me. I feel calm and connected from watching that video. It's amazing.
We have a section then called Get Support Now, for example, if you're stressed or anxious. And then below that, there's a full section on having a quiet mind, how to learn to look at yourself, understand how your mind works, some of the things we've been talking about, comparison, the reactive mind, our emotional needs, for example. We understand our emotions. And then there's a big section on living with wisdom, including a big module on work and leadership. And I'll leave our users to sort of see that and explore that for themselves. So, Tim, we've got another 3 or 4 minutes. What can we leave our viewers with? Just say 2 or 3 things that they can take away from our conversation today.
I'm going to turn it around on you a little bit, Manoj. I'm going to ambush you for a second. I know that you are very modest and you don't want this to be about you. But every time I'm with you, I get the same effect that I do from those videos. Being with you, your presence creates a calming, centering effect on me. And I want to acknowledge you for that. And when I look at the depth of that app, and I look at how far-reaching you've thought about how the human mind works, how we are as humans, some of the common obstacles that we have, some of the workarounds, just ways that we can find wisdom, which will allow peace, compassion, kindness, productivity. I know that you don't want it to be about you, but I think it's very compelling when people get a sense of you. And would you be willing to just share a tiny bit of your story?
I genuinely feel I'm just an ordinary human being asking questions of life.
Yes.
Throughout human history, it's ordinary human beings who've asked the questions of life, who've made the most profound discoveries. This understanding that we're talking about is really simple. It's like looking at the moon together, you and I, saying, hey, what can we learn by looking at the moon? Here, we're just looking at the mind that you and I share. Why am I unhappy at work? Simple. Is it outside or is it me? If it's work, then how come the person sitting next to me is always happy? That's where my curiosity starts. Mm-hmm. So then it's something to do with me. What could it be? Then I go deeper and then I learn. And as I'm looking and learning about myself, I grow in wisdom. And that can completely change our lives, as it has mine. And with this wisdom, I feel, it empowers us to make the most of this short life we have. We're born and we die. It's just a heartbeat in time. But we live with so much unhappiness, sorrow, dissatisfaction. But to realize it's not us personally, it's the way the mind is wired to function. And illuminating that with our understanding is what brings deep transformation. Whether it's work or relationships, then you can look at a sunset or a sunrise or look at a tree and be completely connected with that and nourished by that and be grateful just to be part of life at this time, to have the gift of life. Do you see what I mean? And I think the other thing this can do is it awakens in us a sense of compassion for others. And I'd love to see more workplaces where this compassion existed. It doesn't mean that work doesn't have to be done and all the things that we need to do. In fact, I think it could boost productivity.
Indeed.
If we were happier at work, we were more compassionate towards each other, kinder. What does a kind word cost? Nothing, right? And I think this change in our thinking could revolutionize our relationship with work. And it just comes from simply looking and learning about ourselves. And what we've tried to do with the Human Wisdom Project and the Human Wisdom app is just saying, wherever you are, we will walk with you. We have a trained army of human wisdom coaches around the world who are available to help you, and you're one of them. The app's there. You're not bad, wrong, broken. You're just a human being. But we'll walk with you step by step by step to help you understand yourself, how your own mind works, to help you grow in wisdom, which will not only transform your own life, but could change the future of humanity.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that's the kernel of all of this. And I'm just grateful to be walking this path with you, Manoj.
Okay. And thank you for all our coaches who I see have joined us. Just going to mention some of them who are here. There's Kate and Ashmeeth and Tina Marie and Sakshi. So let's pause here, and we could continue. Of course, we could talk about relationships at work next time, and that's such a huge area to explore.
And the leadership one is a big one too.
And leadership, yes. Yeah. And I know we've had some technical glitches, but please forgive us. It's our first live event.
We'll get it figured out.
All right. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tim, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.